Hey guys, imagine a scenario where we have the world superpower that withdraws its support from the global climate initiative. And that world superpower is also the first polluters, yeah? Leaving developing nations having to fend for themselves. This sounds like a dystopian movie plot, isn't it, right? But yet, this is our reality. As you know, President Trump returned to office in 2025, and his administration has swiftly implemented policies that significantly impact African economies. I know I've not been reacting to that recently, and I'm sure many of you were actually wondering, okay, what's happening? Because I got a question, right? No later than this week, I got a question. Somebody asking me, Tony, what do you think the impact could be on the carbon market in general, but also the carbon market in Africa? That's an example of question people are asking. So I want to explore whether this action represent a setback or actually an unexpected opportunity for Africa's sustainable future. So if you're interested to find out more about that, you want to stick around, guys. Hello, hello, hello. How are you doing? My name is Tony Chiu. I'm the founder and CEO of Renewables in Africa. What we do is very simple. We raise awareness about renewables energy, but also sustainability. If you are interested to break or expand into Africa, we are your eco bridge to this market, and we can help you with visibility, with leads, but also deals. Or if you are looking to decarbonize, yeah, we again are your eco bridge to sustainable pathway, and we can help you with carbon footprint assessment, carbon reduction strategy, and so on and so forth. Now, as you say, obviously, as you know, obviously, President Trump has returned to power since January 20th, and he's been very quick in enacting some policies, right? And obviously, we all know he's not a big fan of the green economy. Yeah, he doesn't necessarily care to some respect. And those policy definitely have a reverberation around the world simply because America, it's the most powerful nation on planet, and what they do definitely has an impact, for good or bad. And today you want to tap into the policy and understand what is the impact, because let's be honest, whether we like it or not, they have an impact. Yeah. And today we can talk about the character. We can talk about, I would say, the movies that's unfolding, saying that we like, we do not like. But what is actually very important as well for us in the sector and people in the economy is to understand what do these move, how do they translate into the economy, how does it affect the sector, and if you know that, then you know how to position yourself, right? You want to look at, is it really a setback or is it an opportunity? So that's what we want to talk about. But first of all, before I dive into that, let's sort of unpack what are those policy that specifically will have, I believe, an implication for Africa. What does those policy shift? So first of all, I want to talk about the withdrawal from Paris Agreement. So that's not the first time he's doing it, right? That's the second time he's doing it. So he issued an executive order, for the United States to withdraw from the Paris Agreement. So, and he's mentioning the need to prioritize American interests. And the move not only diminished, according to me, global effort to combat climate change, but can also reduce financial support for climate initiative in developing nations, including Africa. And this clearly, it's a blow, right? So we can't sugarcoat it. It's definitely a blow because the US is one of the biggest funder in general. So if they remove the money, because the fight against climate change is also a lot about money. Yeah. So where can we get the money and what can we actually boost as initiative? So this is a blow, right? We need to recognize that. One thing that some of you may not understand too much because you're not too much, let's say, involved or engaged in American politics. I'm not pretending I am. So I am simply looking at, okay, what could be the impact of what has happened exactly? So separate that from the rhetoric, yeah? So look at what is the action and what are the actions that happen and what are potentially their consequences. And I know also that the second thing after the withdrawal from Paris Agreement, there was an integration by USAID into the State Department. In fact, if I hear correctly, so the administration planned to integrate the U.S. Agency for International Development, so USAID, that's how we all know it, into the State Department. What does that mean? So that means that they would like to align the foreign aid with America First policy. And you know that obviously there was a spending freeze for all the for 90 days. I think that's for all the foreign aid. Yeah. And critics argue that this will reduce funding for program focusing on economic development and climate change in Africa. And I can say that this impact is actually real because no later than this week, so I have had a colleague of mine from Lens for Good, as you know, so they issue an email to support various companies that are affected. And why? Because I guess those companies, I suppose, will also we see working with Lens for Good to attract some additional funding for them to be able to grow their companies. And at times, the USAID was also another contributor, lender, or investor, depending in what circumstances. So clearly, stopping that will have a direct impact, especially as I say, is the most powerful nation on earth. Usually, the contribution that they do could be significant. Yes, you feel it. And also, the third one I want to talk about as a policy shift that we have seen is the declaration of national emergency. So, the President Trump has declared a national emergency, energy emergency, which is granting his administration new powers to boost fossil fuel development. And the policy shift would encourage definitely some African nations too to prioritize fossil fuel projects, of a renewable energy initiative, saying that we also need to obviously grow economy in our own shore. And by the way, we're not the polluters, that would hinder the continent green transition. And that's a question. So in Africa, we've been wrestling with, for time and time. Yeah. So I know large majority of the decision makers, I have to say, are from the position that no, we should be allowed to keep on exploiting oil. So exploiting coal, exploiting fossil fuel, yeah, because we need to grow. And then we can look at transitioning, yeah, a little bit later. So that's the position, yeah. And at best, some would say we can do the two at the same time. So we already have a number of videos talking about that. I may do another one actually because with the new context, I guess the uh, the environment is slightly different. So we have to recognize that. And as I say to you always, yes, we have, let's say, principles. So we have an objective we're fighting for, which is to electrify the continent by 2040. Yeah. So clean energy champion, we wanted to grow significantly the share of renewables energy across the continent because we believe that's right. We also recognize that looking at where we are as a continent, yes, we need to accommodate as well fossil fuel anyway. We don't even have choice because that's what's happening. But how can we make it so that it makes sense? Yeah. I'm probably going to come back in the video or around that a little bit later. So I don't want to talk about that today because we won't have time. We spend hours and hours on that. Yeah. But declaration of national energy emergency, that's another one. So those are an example of policies that have been taken, right? Talking about the withdrawal from Paris Agreement. So I talk about the integration of USAID into State Department and declaration of a national energy emergency. Yes, so these are policies that have been enacted. Yeah, clearly they have a significant impact, yeah, on continent, definitely. We feel it. So we could be sitting down there and crying about that, say, hey, that's unjust, this is not fair, so on and so forth. That's fine. The reality is this is what is happening to us right now as I speak to you right now. And you know that, right? You can look at the news. That's what's happening. So the question, like I say, is it a setback or is it an opportunity? Obviously, when we present it this way, clearly it feels like a setback. And to be honest as well, there is a degree of setback. We have to acknowledge that, right? So people, companies will be struggling. By the way, that actually remind me one thing. That's why sometimes advice as well, people in the sector, especially startups, that I have a principle is like don't focus too much your growth strategy, whatever you're doing, around I would say grants, subsidies, thing like that. Yeah. Yes, you may need a degree of that for a certain time, but never actually focus your strategy on that. Why? Because of what's happening right now. So at some point in time, you always have the political agenda that is changing. And if it's changing, all of a sudden, that money disappears. Sometimes as quickly as he has arrived. Yeah. And when it comes to that point, you're left hanging. You don't know where to go. So I know it's difficult, but as much as possible, you gotta find, a situation whereby you have a business model which is built around market rules, where you have identified the need of somebody who's willing, ready to pay you for that and build something on top of that. This way is a little bit more robust. Is it gonna stop you from obviously going bankrupt? Not necessarily, right? Is it gonna prevent you having some challenges? No. Business is about facing those difficulties and keep going forward. But as I say, it limits your exposure to situations that we find ourselves right now. And I know a lot of companies are in this situation. Yeah. So I must admit I feel for them, right? So I'm not saying that I'm clearly not happy about what's happening, seeing that. But as I say, as a responsible business and as someone as well who I believe has a such a little voice, I think I wanted just to share this opinion. But having said that, there's always opportunities, whatever happened, right? So we shouldn't just take it, hey, that's it, we're done and do. No, there's always opportunity. And sometimes it's in the toughest of the situation that we find the opportunity, right? So, but what could be those opportunities? So that's what I want to talk to you about, right? So okay, so we want to look at what could be the opportunities that we could be seeing. Yeah. Because despite these challenges, Africa can see several opportunities, I believe. So, what could be the first one? So, I believe Africa can attract alternative capital and partnership. That for me is the first alternative. With the US stepping back, the continent can really strengthen ties with other global players. So we have the European Union, which is one of the biggest, which is, I think, if not the second or the first biggest partner for an energy transition in Africa. China, of course. China will be growing its influence, right? So I know the Biden administration were looking forward to counter the influence of China. So in Africa, now clearly doors are open. And country will embrace it. Yeah, because there's a number of renewable energy projects which were relying on USAID, US support. So with that support moving away, so the project will be there and they will be looking for new guy to finish it off. And I know Chinese money will clearly be considered. And I can understand it, guys. So we got to get things moving. So the EU, China, they've shown increased interest in investing in Africa renewable energy sector and presenting opportunity for diversify funding and also technological collaboration. So attracting those new capital and partnerships are interesting. And I would say as well to obviously folks in the industry, we got to look as well further than just EU and China. And I'm saying that because I've had interesting conversation with even other nations, people in the UAE, so in Brazil, yeah, in Chile, yes, a lot of them are actually interested in the continent. Yes, absolutely. And some would say Russia. Why not? If you happen to work with them, so that's what I was because I remember in one of the chats I'm part of, there was a gentleman because obviously I was talking about the fact that some banks are withdrawing from the Net Zero Alliance, so U.S. bank, as a result of the U.S. putting out Paris Agreement. Care there's a consequence on that and not focusing at all on the sector. So that person will say, okay, we in a nutshell, doom and gloom, and we actually should stop lying to ourselves, and working on that clean energy, energy transition agenda because this has been imposed by the West to make us suffer and blah blah blah. So I'm not going to dive into that now, so because I can say that again, yet another topic. But I just want to say, I say to that person, listen, it's also depend on the way we react. Yeah, it depends on what we do, so how we do things. Yeah, so we actually seize the opportunity and make things happen for ourselves. Yeah, and if we don't like somebody else's money because we believe that they dictate to us what we got to do, we need to fight and find a way to reject that money and do something ourselves. Yeah. So that's how I think. So attracting alternative capital partnership, that's one opportunity clearly for me. That is real. We have to seize it. So that obviously, just like we've seized Chinese money, there's some other money somewhere else. There's a lot of people that want to tap into the continent because the continent, as you know, very wealthy. Yeah. It's a huge opportunity. I say again, the population, we 1.4 billion, is gonna, go to 2.5 by 2050. So that's a lot of opportunity just on population itself, because that's gonna obviously spur the economic growth. Yeah. So the second one I'll talk about as an opportunity, I want to talk about the new wave of climate talent and expertise. Yes, guys. Yes. Yes. Because the shift in the US policy, it may prompt some American climate professional to seek opportunity abroad, because it's all of a sudden things are drying up, in their homeland. So Africa can become a destination for this talent. Yes, reverse it, the brain drain, reverse it. How can we, if I were president, I see how can I attract those talent? Yeah. Benefit from the expertise in sustainable development, all of a sudden turn myself, turn my nation into superpower. And guess what? You don't even need to do that at the level of government, even the company. You can do that. Attract those guys, give them a very comfortable life, but in exchange, in return, ask them to help you to really turn yourself into a superpower in the sector. Because guess what? If you look at the long term, it's gonna pay off, and you can have it for a much more attractive price, I believe, than before, because opportunities are drying up for them. Yeah. So that's what we say. Reverse that brain drain. That's what I would say. So that's the second opportunity. Really, I'm hoping we'll be tapping into. So the third one, it's for me to accelerate Africa's own climate leadership. Yes, guys, that's the time. Somebody is stepping aside. We can fill this gap. We can take that. That's the way it is. Because if we're talking about one day become one of the leaders or in the sector, blah blah blah, guys, what are we waiting for? That is the time. At this juncture, we offer Africa a chance to assert its leadership on climate initiative by investing in local green industrialization and leveraging regional organization. The continent, Africa, can chart its path towards sustainability, and we can do it the way maybe nobody has done it before. Yes, we have to trust ourselves, because that's the challenge first we have with a lot of my colleagues, my brother and sister, I must admit. When they say that we need to go the fossil fuel way because that's how people have developed, say, hey guys, why can't we invent a new way? Why are we still looking for other people as an example of what we need to do absolutely in order for us to grow? Why can't we do another? What are we not confident enough to say, hey, we can make it happen? Especially as when we make those decisions, there's already a lot of interesting solutions out there that could be rolled out. So, yeah, that's those are the opportunities that I talk about. So what's the road ahead? Would I say, what should Africa do? Obviously I recommended and pinpointed some opportunities that I'm seeing. I'm hoping that you were taking notes. So I talk about the fact that we need to attract alternative capital. We need a new wave of climate talent expertise that come from the US, absorb them, yeah, and we need to accelerate our own climate leadership. So what should we do going ahead, right? So I believe here are the three to four things that I will recommend. Yeah. So we need to forge strategic partnership. So engage with nation and organizations that are committed to climate action to secure funding and support green projects. As I say, the world is much bigger than the US. I love the US, don't get me wrong. It's a country that I love a lot. I have a lot of people, a lot of collaborations. You will see we've been collaborating with a college, a very famous black college in the US, Morehouse College. So I love the US for sure. Yeah, there's nothing against them, but as I say, you gotta move ahead as well, right? As much as they talk about America first, we gotta talk about Africa first as well, yeah, to some extent. So we want to engage with nation, organized, to committed to to climate action and secure funding. We want to invest into green industrializations. Yeah, that's a chance for me. Prioritize the development of local renewable energy industries to reduce dependence on external sources and create jobs. That's what that's what we're talking about. We want to leverage the regional institution that we have. Hey guys, this is where I believe there is a chance for organizations like the African Union to really step up. Guys, it's time for you to step up, coordinate, amplify, get that message, to fill a gap, right? To make yourself heard, not only in the continent, but also beyond. This is the time. This is the time. The time is when somebody is leaving, the forum. So there's an empty seat. Yeah. So either the old guy, the other guys were just gonna fill the seat and keep it by themselves, or a new guy will say, "Hey, guys, I'm interested to step forward. Here is what I can do." And obviously, I track global time. That's for me one of the biggest things. Yeah. So I track global time. I track global time. Guess what? I'm probably gonna be working to see who can I attract from America to really turn us into a much more powerful voice that we are already. Okay, I know I spent a bit more time. I was a little bit longer than usual, but I needed to react because that's the topic I know a lot of you wanted me to speak about and wanted to hear about. What is my opinion? So hopefully it does make sense. So yeah. So why the recent US policy present challenge? They also offer, to the continent a pivotal opportunity to redefine its green future. And by us embracing strategic partnership, investing into local industry, asserting our climate leadership, we can really turn potential setback into foundation for sustainable growth. That's the key word here, foundation. So if your organization is looking to navigate this evolving landscape, let me know. If you're looking to assess your carbon footprint before you jump into that, develop sustainable strategies, we're here to assist. To collaborate, we are your eco bridge to sustainable pathway. So I want us to collaborate to build a resilient and prosperous green future for Africa. And I'm hoping that what I've shared with you today help you to see the way forward. Yeah, that's my take on the topic. You have a beautiful Sunday, guys. I see you tomorrow. And guess what? We're going to be talking about carbon accounting. Okay, guys, take care.